So this is lesson 91 in Algebra 2, linear inequalities greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and systems of linear inequalities. And I'm just going to go ahead and bounce around a little bit. This section is pretty long, but we're not going to go into all the details in it. Sometimes I wonder why the book does all that they do when it can be explained so much quicker and easier. So let's see if I can do that. Alright, so when you're given an inequality such as y is less than or equal to 1/3 x plus 2. When you're given that inequality and you want to graph it, what we're going to do is we're going to treat it as if the inequality sign here is an equal sign. So it's actually going to be the same graph as if it were equal. Alright, let's get a graph on here and I'll show you what I mean. So what we're trying to do here is graph this guy. So it's in slope-intercept form, mx plus b, and so then we know our y-intercept is 2. And then we know that the slope is 1/3, so it's up 1 over 3. Up 1 over 3. And it gives us a line like that. Okay? Now, because it says less than or equal to, equal is the key thing. That's what makes it a straight, solid line. If it just was y is less than 1/3 x plus 2, then this line would not be a solid line. It would be a dotted line because that inequality sign right here says that it's less than. It doesn't say that it is the line that I just drew on here. So let me see if I can get my line back. Kind of. Okay, so there's my line. Now here's a key thing right here. This says y can be any number as long as it's less than or equal to this part of the inequality. Okay? The less than means y. Y is up and down, right? If it says y is less than, then y is going to be down here below this graph. And that is the answer there. Is you've got a solid line and then you've shaded everything below. Now if it would have said y is greater than, then y would have been everything above the line. Okay? So they go through an awful lot of information there in order for you to understand this. But a key thing is, a couple key things. If it's a greater than or equal to sign, when you graph the inequality, it's going to be a solid line. If it's just a greater than or just a less than sign with no equal sign under it, then it's a dotted line for, again, this graph. But the thing still remains the same. Everything below the line, or if this was switched around and it was greater than, everything above the line. Okay, so let's look at a couple here. Okay, so this is example 91.1, bottom of the page 379. So let's go ahead and look at this. So we're going to graph both of those, and fortunately they're both in the y equals mx plus b format. So we just have to look at the last number for the y-intercept and then the number in front of the x for the slope, and they make them really easy to graph. Now the first one you'll notice is just a less than sign. So that means when we draw this line, it's going to be dotted. This one is a greater than or equal to sign, so when we draw this line, it's going to be solid. So let's draw this one first. Starts at 2, y-intercept, and then it goes up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Because remember the 1/2, the number in front of the x is y over x. So you do the y part, you go up 1, and you go over 2 because the x part is 2. Okay, then we draw a dotted line Okay, let's look at the second one. We'll do this one in blue. The second one says we're going to start at -3. And then the the slope is -1/1, because when there's a negative and there's no number, it's just you put a 1 in front of the x, make it into a fraction. -1/1 is the same as -1, which you don't even have to write. So we put it like this so we know what to do at the y-intercept here. We go up 1, because remember, y over x. We go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So it's down 1 because of the negative, over 1 to the right because it's positive, and because it's a greater than or equal to sign, we have a solid line. All right, let's look and see what's shaded. We're going to look at the top one. Top one says y is less than. So y is less than the dotted. So y is going to be all the numbers less than or below the dotted. Okay. Now let's do green for the other one. The other one says y is greater than or equal to the other one. So what is greater than? It's above this one. And what I'm interested in is what the two equations or two inequalities have in common. Well, they crossed. They've got all this in common. The yellow and green overlap in that whole section. So that ends up being your answer for that problem. Okay, let's look at this one. This is 91.2. What we're doing here is we are looking at this, and it's in slope-intercept form. So that makes it real easy. It's in y equals mx plus b format. Okay. So, what number is in front of the x? There is a 1 in front of there. So let's go ahead and put it there and make it a fraction. And my y-intercept is -2. So -2 on the y-axis is right there. And then I look at my slope, 1 over 1, and I start here and I do what it says. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And you notice the sign here is an inequality sign, and it's a greater than. It is not a greater than or equal sign, so we have a dotted slope here, or a dotted line. Okay, now let's look at the second one. Same thing, we have a +1, so we start at 1. And then there's a 1 over 1 here, so we go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And because of the less than or equal to sign, because of that equal sign, it's a solid line. Alright, so let's look at where these graphs are going to be. So the first one says y is greater than x minus 2. We're talking the red dotted one. So we know that y is going to be greater than or above. Okay. Now we have y is less than x plus 1. And then we draw y is less than. So where they cross is right there in the middle. So this ends up being the solution, is where they intersect each other. And that's it for lesson 91. Not really too terribly much to it.